A lot of times masculinity is defined by how tough you are. And like you said, they only relate to when we angry. If you cry, what's up, man? You weak. If you show your emotion, you weak. Sometimes men don't even want to be vulnerable to the woman they like because they don't know if that woman is going to accept that vulnerability or say, man, you a weak dude.
There are portions of what culture has highlighted and what families have perpetuated that can become toxic if it is not dealt with. The emotions that we have, the pain that we have, the hurt that we deal with, if it is not properly dealt with, how long do you handle that or hold on to that before it becomes toxic?
I was speaking to a pastor I know who, when he preaches, he cries. I was out one day and I saw a former member of the church who said, I don't go there anymore. He always getting up there crying and carrying on and whining. I don't want to hear him cry. And I thought, well, I mean,
I thought y'all wanted more sensitive brothers.
She wanted a preacher who gets up and sucks it up.
Right. So it could be, if I didn't talk, it could be misperceived or misconstrued as that lending itself to some level of toxicity of perpetuating itself because I didn't come back around to say, hey, this is this, and this is why I'm this, and this is why I'm doing this, and blah, 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 blah. And it can be redefined. So they thought that it was just hard, you know. Mm-hmm. It's just hard to come talk to you about certain things because, hey, you know, you're just abrasive. And I was like, so say that again. What do you mean by being abrasive? Because I want to know. Right. Because boomers.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
you suck it up.
Right. Yeah. Walk it off.
You walk it off.
You hurt. Was it the program? You heard of your injury.
You heard, right, exactly.
You heard of your injury, you know what I'm saying? If you hurt, you can see a play.
Put some Robitussin on it, honey.
Dude,
you won't get out of there, boy.
Then you would get sued, dude. Right. Oh my God.
Literally, I told them about a story. I was 14 years old, same age as my son was. I said I was 14 years old, and I was playing ball, and street lights came on. I was like, Mom just gonna have to be mad at me. I'm in the zone. And we played 3 more games, ran 3 more games, and in some of our parks in Chicago, it had a hole up underneath the basket. So I went up, lay up, put my foot in there, broke it. Now I'm about five blocks away from the house, but I can't go home by myself. I need help. But my boy's still playing. They got to finish the game. One of the OGs come by, I'm on the gate, and I'm like, tears coming down my eyes. One of the OGs come by, he was like, yeah, little nigga, what's wrong with you? I was like, I don't know, man, I did something to my ankle. He was like, suck it up. Yeah. And he kept on walking. And I was like, you know what? He's right. I sucked back all the tears, so I never cried in public. Ever. Because crying is weakness to the street. And my boys, I'm like, hey.
I gotta tell you, oh my God.
You see how that can turn into toxicity.
Oh yeah.
What I mean by that, instead of OG saying, hey man, what's going on? But it's broke, man, I know, you're probably be in a lot of pain. But I get it. Hey man, I'll wait with you until your boys are finishing, man. Y'all take them on to the house and don't say nothing about the tears, because the tears is a sign that there's excruciating pain. There's something wrong. Instead of that kind of conversation, it was something else that says, suck it up, which means suck back all of your emotion.
You know what's interesting? That's very, very powerful. What's interesting, as I'm listening to you, we have a culture of that, because OG would tell you, suck it up. And my experience of some women don't want guys who are emotional. So then it's as if we have created a culture of desire for the guy who sucks it up and then calls it toxic.
Toxicity.
The word,
Toxic.
toxic masculinity when men act out that in other ways.
Yeah.
So we have a circular situation here that seems to be, because I've seen this both in pastoral type situation. I was speaking to a pastor I know who, when he preaches, he cries. I was out one day and I saw a former member of the church who said, I don't go there anymore. He always getting up there crying and carrying on and whining. I don't want to hear him cry. And I thought, well, I mean,
I thought y'all wanted more sensitive brothers.
She wanted a preacher who get up and sucks it up.
Right.
And I'm like, so it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. And it's like, where do you find true masculinity in that? One, that can manage the emotions, and two, that can suffice a society that not only expects men not to cry, but I mean, a woman just said to me the other day, something to the effect of, I said, I'm stronger than you. You better be stronger than me. I was like, well, why do I have to be strong?
Wow. You know what? But
Wow.
You know what hit me when you said that, man? Suck it up. First of all, leprosy, right? When people had leprosy, the main thing, the reason why leopards would be destroyed was not from the disease itself. It's because they couldn't feel no pain. So their foot would be broken or hurt. They would literally walk their foot off because they could not feel the pain. And a lot of times I think we as pastors, we as black men, we as males, we stress ourselves out. The reason why we have high blood pressure more, the reason why we die more, because we suck up the pain. That's right. We don't express it. We don't do, because we like women and everybody say we supposed to be strong. Dude, I tore my patella tendon, the whole knee. Pew. I'm like, for a minute I screamed, I was done. Went to the hospital. I'm sitting in the hospital for 5 hours at Piedmont in Atlanta. Sitting there, I'm in pain. I'm having to hold my foot up, my leg up, because when the time it bend, it hurts. So I got to hold my left foot up with my right foot to keep the knee straight. I'm in there, I'm in pain. They finally signed me in. I get to the back of the room. They said, man, your patella tendon is all the way torn. I know you in pain. Like, yeah. Like, you ain't screaming and hollering. Man, I can't scream and holler in front of y'all. I don't know y'all.
Right.
I'm 48 years old at the time. I'm like, dude, I'm like, man, I don't know y'all. I can't be in here screaming. I'm like, I don't want nobody to know I'm in that much pain. I don't know these homeless looking people over here. Like, I gotta, like, if you want, you know what I'm saying? In my mind, I'm in that mode and didn't realize it because I'm in there with a whole bunch of people I don't flipping know. Yeah. And so I'm in pain, knee just broke up. Then she said, I need to bring some pain medicine. 30 minutes go by, she's still in probably daggone pain medicine. She's like, oh yeah, I forgot. I said, man, you know I'm in pain. Yeah, I know you are, but you ain't screaming. Why am I gonna have to scream? But what I realized, even in that moment, I'm hurt, but I ain't showing you I'm hurt, so you're not giving me the attention I need. And sometimes us, in our spiritual state, in our natural state, in our emotional state, we hurt, but we don't show we hurt. And all of a sudden we hear, man, so-and-so committed suicide. Because he been hurting for years, but he trying to be tough because the OG told us to suck it up. And that's what I learned, walk it off.
Not only the OG, the mama told him to suck it up, the grandma, it's like the whole society. What I'm saying is that we have created a society that's made it difficult to understand what it means to be a man.
Right.
Boss girl, all this stuff, and I'm like, well, the boys better not say boss boy, boss man, right? It's like it's gonna come off different. And I'm saying I understand it socially, historically, all that. But when you are a young man who trying to make your way in the world at 13, 14, 15 years old, like, what am I supposed to do? So I was with the lady the other day who has a son. She was on the speakerphone. A single mom, and she said, son, I want to go to the movies with you Friday night. He said, Mom, I got women to see. He's 16 years old. He said, I got women to see. Somebody saw him. I'm living here. Bye, boy. But what he's trying to, but I heard something different. I mean, he was being humorous, but I heard something different. He doesn't want to be the boy mom that going to the movie with his mom because his boy's not going to see that as being a man. He got women to see because his masculinity has been defined by a highly sexualized society that his boys, they're competing on the women because that makes them feel like a man, right? So it's like they're looking for something. to make them feel like a man.
Wow.
Well, I would add on to that,
Yeah.
but culturally, we don't live in a society whereby if you are not with your mom, then you are walking with your dad.
Right.
There used to be a time in which that was the case, and actually, naturally, a young man, when he grows up, there is a time in which he detaches himself from mom, and he sees himself more in dad. But if that physical presence is not there, then you look for masculine images wherever, videos or songs, music, or whatever. So I think it's a natural tendency to be able to develop it in that sense. What's not good for that natural development is to not have viable conversations about age and stage and where you are and how you're thinking and how you're processing and what happens and blah, blah, blah. So I think what we have done in times past in culture is trying to define masculinity as it being monolithic versus looking at the dimensions of masculinity as it being developmental. And so, how do you define a human being?
Yeah.
And is that definition for this human being the same thing for this human being? And besides the fact that we are humans being, what will define the essence of that being? And those are different dimensions. Those are different colors. It's different conceptuals and colors and contours and contrasts where that's concerned. And I think, for conversation to not necessarily be constrictive but constructive, it's very important for us to talk about the dimensions of manhood and the dimensions of masculinity that goes into a place in which sometimes you do need to suck it up.
Man, you know what?
And there are times in which you need to let it go. You know what I'm saying?
You helping me out because really, man, you look at education. I have come up as a special education teacher because, we learn how to, each individual student, we learn how to teach to that student. But a lot of time with regular ed teachers, you more so teaching on the bell curve. And I believe that's what we do with men. We put us on a bell curve. This is the way it's supposed to look, but we don't differentiate our instruction or our insight on how everybody is different. And we live in a country that says, oh, wow, we found some similarities. So that's how, man, if we can find something we can relate to, man, me and him went to the same school and we find something that's the same to relate. Why do I have to be the same as you to relate? I'd rather you be different, because if you're different, you're going to help fill the gaps I can't fill. Right? Him, he way more serious than I am. You know what I'm saying? And
No.
So he gonna keep it. He gonna keep us anchored. I can't have another lunatic with me. You know what I'm saying? He can't have somebody else who's just boom, 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 because it's a balance between the two. And the thing about it is, he let me be me, I let him be him, and then the magic comes because we are two different people. But a lot of times society try to put everybody in the same place because we comfortable with everybody being the same. We celebrate our similarities when we should be celebrating our differences.
Right.
Like
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like
That's really what happens.
Absolutely.
See, I know I said something smart. I got him jumping.
See,
Hey, mama. I made it. Dr. Anthony Harris said I said something good. I made it, mama. Oh, dude.
Yeah, but I think that's very important. I think we have a generation that's able to have those kinds of conversations now, whereby before we didn't. We just kind of.
Man, we ain't never talk. Look, if I come home crying because some boy hit me, my dad like, what? You better go out there. If you don't beat this butt, don't you come in here, I'm gonna fight you. Right. But then if my sister come in crying, we need to figure out, hold on, then this same Negro just told me to go fight. But he gonna tell my sister to talk it out. You understand?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. For years in our culture, this is what I'm talking about when I say this is another sign or symptom of toxicity. That the only way that we could be masculinity, or the only release or opportunity for us to be masculinity or masculine, was in our anger.
Yeah.
Especially if it was physical. That was the only way.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's what I'm talking
Well, see, because masculinity is defined by strength, a certain strength that as expressed and sometimes anger.
Yes.
And because that suggests you can be a protector.
Yes.
Right. You set them straight. You
Right.
know.
Yeah.
And then also by a highly sexualized society.
Yes.
You gotta have a certain amount of women and all this kind of stuff in order to make yourself feel like a man. And so I see the toxicity in all
mentality.
of that. Yeah. What's that?
The buck mentality.
But in our society, to study, to learn, to be able to speak different languages is not something that's flattered to be a masculine thing.
Intelligence.
And so intelligence is not flattered to be a masculine thing. Shifting a little bit. So I was a chaplain in the prisons. It was all women's prison when I was in seminary in Atlanta. At the Metro State Prison, it's no longer there, but it was all women, 998 women. And then I was...
You knew the number.
I mean, all right. 998 for some reason.
That was born in prison.
998.
People say about 1,000. That is it.
998.
All right, Reverend. All right, David. Solomon. It's in the bloodline. Go ahead.
I lost my thought.
I'm sorry, man.
Then when I went up north, and I went to. Sorry, you're crazy. Went up north when I was at Yale. I was a part of a jail ministry. It was a correctional facility this time, and it was an all men correctional facility.
You don't know that number though.
He didn't say the number. Did not say that number.
As attentive to details.
Go ahead, dude. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
Tells you which side of the line.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So, but I found it really interesting. See, I lost my freaking thought.
My fault. You do that to me sometimes. You be all right. It'll come back.
Okay.
See, I found
Okay,
it.
so and I was disturbed in the two contexts for different reasons, right? In Georgia, the accessory law was such that if a person is with another person who, say, committed a murder, that person is as guilty as the person who did it. So there were a lot of women in prison who were with their boyfriend or some guy who actually committed a crime. Well, because there's a certain kind of attraction that comes with the bad guy, right? With some of the women who were in prison, some women who we know in our own lives, they attract to the bad guy. Have you seen it in ministry a lot? It's like, I don't understand why you're so attracted to him. Something about him being bad and beating you just attractive, isn't it? That sometimes happens, not all the time. So I saw a lot of that type of stuff. But then when I was in the correction facility where they're all men, I met the MS-13, the Bloods, the Crips. That's how I got to learn about those from guys who were in jail. Latin Kings.
Like school though. You're taking that back to school, ain't
Yeah,
absolutely.
When you pray, and I've seen the toughest guys who scare people in the street behind prison walls. You pray for them or talk to them. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I believe, sir. Yes, sir. And it's like, this is the same bad guy. The same guy was on the street with the police. The same thing happened. One guy in Norfolk had the police, there was a standoff. He wouldn't come out of the house. And they told me, Doc, he's going to come out one way or the other. And I said, oh, Lord, this is going to be a bad night. I was working with the police. And so the guy surrenders, come out, he cussing the police and everything, gets in the car. We take him to the POC to process him for the night. I asked the officer if I can get out and talk to him. I got out and talked to him. And I said, I'm a local pastor working with the police department. He said, you a pastor? Handcuff. Pray for me, pastor. And I said, Father. He said, Father, in the name of Jesus. And I got so distracted because I was like, this is the bad guy.
But see, you gotta understand that's protection, man. So I mean, sometimes you can meet a woman who real hard like that, but they be the softest women you meet because it's a way to protect themselves. And if you in the street, you poor, you don't have the means, sometimes you around people that you have to be around in your mind because you don't have no other way. You don't have no father. I gotta join this gang because if I don't join this gang gonna kill me. This gang on my street. So a lot of times it's just a facade for protection. I mean, one of my favorite movies, Jason's Leary. Remember that? Yeah. Remember the pretty boy waited on Tank and beat his butt So even dudes who clean cut, it's a gangster in there somewhere. It's just you know how to control it. And a lot of times you stronger than some of the people that act like they hard. Because the ones that act like they hard sometimes are weak because they need that as a layer of protection. Because that if I can scare you with my voice, then I don't have to deal with you physically. You understand what I'm saying?
It's a insecurity tactic.
Right, insecurity, exactly. Yeah. So the man bump that lady who left you, man, for a hard dude, man. It seems like you're struggling with it.
It just went. Wow.
We gonna end it.
Wait a minute. So
it happens like that all the time. He was very emotional. Yeah. Lay down, man. Get the lights on.
So how did that make you feel, Dr. When I just put on my pastoral hat right there, like, oh Lord, okay.
We gotta do a tap question.
You is smart. You is kind. You is important.
We were talking about when you was in the hospital.
Yeah.
And they didn't come to you as quick as they should have.
Right.
Because you wasn't showing how hurt you were.
Right.
How does that work in relationships if we don't get the response from the people we're in covenant with or relationship with women, men and women, because we are how we are? Because they possibly may not know how bad they're hurt.
Wow. Yeah. And I believe a lot of times we do it as protection. Like Dr. Harris been saying this show. A lot of times masculinity is defined by how tough you are. And like you said, they only relate to when we angry. If you cry, what's up, man? You weak. If you show your emotion, you weak. Sometimes men don't even want to be vulnerable to the woman they like because they don't know if that woman is going to accept that vulnerability or say, man, you a weak dude. And that's how we have allowed society to define us. And I believe masculinity to me is being able to express all the sides of yourself and not care. Look at David. David expressed himself. David cried and go tell Jonathan, man, I love you, man. So some theologians try to act like they were gay, but then you run up on David on the wrong day, you're gonna get cut up because he a gangster. He was able to express himself in music. He expressed himself to love. He expressed himself, if you bother him, he will cut you and kill you. He gave his emotions to God. He even said, God, teach my fingers to war. Yet that sometimes he'd be soft. His wife even got mad because you dancing out your clothes. What are you doing? You not dignified enough. And he was like, look here, woman, don't even mess with me no more because I'm giving my praise to God. And a lot of times as men, we have to begin to define our masculinity and say, I am a man that can express all sides of myself and not worry about what you think.
Now, I really like that because I haven't thought about using David as a model for masculinity. No,
you knew how many women was in there. I knew.
No,
David though.
Well,
the Spirit showed me
when I say model, though, I don't mean that every choice he made was the best choice, but from the standpoint of his expressing emotions in different ways.
I wouldn't use David though. I would use David as a case study of masculinity that happens within different contexts of life. And how it has the potential to go wrong when it does not have proper mentoring. Because there are things about David's life. I would use more Jesus because to me he's the ultimate.
But using Jesus doesn't really help us define masculinity. That's divinity.
Well, no.
I mean, masculinity is flawed, right? At its best.
Yeah, who thought it not robbery to be equal with God, but came down and service. So we start, to me, the baseline of masculinity and the essence of strength and power is service. How can I take what I have and use it to make you better?
That's the definition of masculinity, is what you're saying?
Well, that's a baseline. We've got to start from, because to me, masculinity is power. And how can you then take that power and be able to serve people?
Is femininity power?
It is a type of power. Yes.
I saw her look up. Is that right? She
looked
up the whole time. You better get her answer.
Yeah.
Hold on, say it again. What you?
It is a type of power. Well, but you're talking about power. In essence, when you're talking about relationships, you're talking about how we share our power with each other.
Okay.
We're not talking about how one power is dominating over another power. We're talking about how two powers are sharing their power with each other. But now if one power is looking at the other power as it being too powerful, meaning that you need to diminish your power so I can be more powerful, then that doesn't necessarily bring about the best results. It brings about a better result when I respect you for the power that you wield and you respect me for the power that I wield. I'm not trying to tell you to be any less. Please don't ask me to be any less.
Look at this.
But what we can do is that if I am confident in the power that I have and the power that I possess, and I have no insecurities there when it comes to that power, I am able to, in certain contexts, lay that power down because your power is the best power for this context. The best power for the context of bringing forth a child is a woman, not a man. Right? But I sow a seed and I protect and support that power, so that that power can be everything that it's called to be. So I think it's a sharing of power. I think when we look at Jesus, I laid down this to become this so that I can serve everybody else. When I'm looking at David, I'm looking at the other part of masculinity that is fundamentally flawed, but that's a part of all humanity, right? And in his context, in David's context, where let's just say his mom Nitzavit, who is having struggle with Jesse anyway in their relationship, and not knowing and understanding that Jesse wants to put her away, and he wants to put her away because he wants to be a priest, and which means that you need to be married to somebody who's a full-fledged Hebrew, and she may not be full-fledged Hebrew, so he is trying to have a baby through her maidservant, in which the maidservant tells Nitzavit, and Nitzavit says, well, fine, then I will go in and I'll sleep with my own husband, but didn't know that that was his wife, and so now she's pregnant, even though she was put away, and now Jesse is looking at a woman that he put away. Like, how did you get pregnant? Which means that he never perceived David to be his real son, and that's the reason why when Samuel comes along and says, "Where all your sons," David is not invited to the party because he never perceived. So now David is already dealing with the level of rejection. So now that level of rejection now impacts the kind of masculinity that I have, right? Because the only thing that people applaud in our manhood is the thing that we do more of, right? So we see a fundamentally flawed masculinity because we see relationships that have impacted him in such a way that it messes with his ability to relate to other people. David did not have a problem in exerting power in being a warrior. He didn't have a problem with being a worshiper. He could be a worshiper in isolation. He could be a warrior with other people and killing because he had a skill for that. What he had a problem with is being in relationship with his wife, being in relationship with his sons. How do you deal with the fact that, one son raped your daughter and you don't say nothing? You have to put your other son away, but you don't even come and see him? What kind of, because he doesn't have, he can handle outside external conflict better than he can handle internal conflict. And maybe that is one of the issues if we were to bring David as a case study, and that's why I say he's a case study in this. He says, I'm born in sin and shaping in iniquity. He's maybe talking about the trauma of being a part of a scandal of his own family. Samuel comes along, pours oil on him and says, you're going to be the next king, and you never hear from Samuel again.
And they didn't even celebrate him.
And they didn't even celebrate him because Samuel's heart was still connected to Saul, not to David. So now I'm anointed, I'm alone, I'm isolated. And the only thing that I have to deal with is the thing that I'm skillful at. I know I can be a shepherd. I know I got the, I can sling a rock.
You defined by your job. I got you.
Come on, see what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? I'm more
with you.
defining the work that I do. I know I can play. I can play that devil off you.
My gifts.
My talents, my work,
my personality.
That's it. So even when I'm running away from Saul, I become a mercenary because that's what I'm good at, right? Pay me for what I'm good at. And if you don't pay me for what I'm good at, Nabal, I'm coming to kill you.
But he also told Saul, hey, what'd it get if I kill Goliath?
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
What do I get from that? I get taxes off. I get all of that is happening.
And
And I get a woman for it. I get married. Come on, Zach.
Well, we doing good because in our masculinity, we want to say, Negro, this our show. But even though this our show, Theology on Tap, we thought of now Robert to bow down and say, you let us know we wrong. You know what I'm saying? we got Jesus masculinity. You know what I'm saying? we got the right masculinity. We did good. We did good, partner. Because I want to say, Negro, this is my show.
Listen, neither one of us married. We need to listen to what he said.
We did. We already said it. We did. We found out.
Well, I just think that this is a broader conversation that I think is very important, because if I start highlighting David, what part of David am I highlighting? The warrior part? We can get with that. But what about the person or the father that doesn't walk his son through this chaos and through this conflict? Obviously, he had a problem with it. This was his pattern, because even on his deathbed,
They brought two women.
and it's like, surely the king is dead.
He ain't gonna mess with either one of them.
And then to make matters worse, his other son was vying for the kingship because nobody knew that he was going elect Solomon. Bathsheba had to come in and say, look, you need to go and do something with this. Otherwise we're going to have an issue with Solomon becoming king, because he was not given to conflict internally in his household. Externally, he was great. Internally, he was not. And maybe that is an issue that we've got to discuss.
He was a latchkey king because he was out there keeping the sheep.
You see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going? See where I'm going?
I saw you were going.
See where I'm going?
I'm walking with you.
So we're great at dealing with external conflict. We can fight people
because
and
we
do
had
all
to
that.
do it instead of because we got to walk down the street by
Exactly.
ourselves. We got to take care of ourselves.
Exactly.
But emotionally, you had to hold him down because you can't show people
Come on.
that you weak.
And that's
That nigga went
internal
all around there, boy.
conflict.
He been around Jake. He been around Jake saying it.
Yes,
He
internal
told the
conflict.
story.
So,
Hey,
when you first walked in, we talked about how LeBron was LeBron because he didn't, he had to.
Right.
LeBron, he's different because he got it.
He got it
So
for
is
us.
that why you think the connection with David because he didn't have? He had to.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That made him stronger. Solomon was not like that. Solomon was weaker than David. But David had to create peace so that Solomon wouldn't have to fight.
Wow. Yeah.
This is tremendous.
Because he was a lover, not a fighter.
Exactly.
He wasn't sitting down there. He wanted to graze in the valley. You know what I'm saying?
We went from not knowing what to talk about to a whole lot of stuff to talk about.
Man, I just let it organically happen every time. Man.
I think I can get 2 shows out of this, brother.
Solomon said, I will not fight your men, but I will certainly marry your women.
Look, Solomon knew was 998 women in the prison. You know what I'm saying? He knew how many men. He knew it now.
I don't know how many soldiers you got, but I got.
I will not fight in your
That
mouth.
I went to the
I
female
will
prison.
repopulate
It was,
your
it was
community.
998 women in this. How many men? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of our me. But this is, thank you so much for taking
man,
the time.
this
This
is
is
dope,
so
bro.
much. I think we
Oh
can
my
get 2
God.
shows out of this.
This is dope, bro.
Yeah, this is great.
Oh
my
God,
gosh,
that's hilarious.
Got my head thinking. But beyond this, I think there needs to be more conversation about masculinity, and it doesn't need to only be governed by this toxic masculinity, because then we need the more constructive for the sake of the younger generation. If we're critiquing older guys who try to control everything, like Willard. No, just kidding.
Man, you ain't bothering me.
That's one thing. But I'm talking about the next generation who needs to know what should be because they don't have that point of reference.
Well, I don't think we are, in our English language, and you'll understand this, in studying different languages, the English language is probably the more complicated and the more complex. Because we have too many words for too many things, and we have too many definitions for too many words.
We don't have enough
right?
words, basically.
Right,
Yeah.
and so
Read.
we don't. To say toxic masculinity is to imply that all masculinity is toxic. That's not the case. there are portions of what culture has highlighted and what families have perpetuated that can become toxic if it is not dealt with. The emotions that we have, the pain that we have, the hurt that we deal with, if it is not properly dealt with, how long do you handle that or hold on to that before it becomes toxic? Relationships that people may have that you do not talk about something and you don't air it out. How long do you have that before it does not turn into toxic? I'll use something else. I'll use a whole different emotional vocabulary. When Peter is doing ministry in the book of Acts, Simon is saying, I want this power. Give me this power. And he looks at him and he prophesies to him. He discerns him and says, the root of bitterness has bitten you. You've got bitterness that you have not dealt with, and it has made you toxic. I think for any human being, but since we were talking about masculinity, we specify masculinity. If we don't deal with the issues that have hurt us, that has traumatized us, then there are certain things that will become toxic. And to your point, if we don't have that kind of conversation with the younger generation, then no, they will not know that your masculinity is not a negative, it is a positive.
But even what you're saying now, that we need to deal with what makes toxic masculinity, not just identifying what is toxic.
Sure.
Like what create, and that's a whole nother conversation about what created this concept of toxic.
I think what created this concept of toxic masculinity is not. Look at the Bible. When they wanted to kill, when they were looking for Moses, they killed every firstborn male 2 years old or younger. They were looking for Jesus. They killed every male 2 years old or younger. And in the Bible, in one of the scriptures, it says that he's after the seed giver. And then he's after the seed giver, which means he's after the male. And a lot of time when you look at it, why does it have to be toxic masculinity? Why it just can't be toxic? Why we got to put it on the male? Because the devil always attacking the male because that's the seed giver, that's the visionary, that's who's supposed to have the covering. You understand? You look at movies, they try to emasculate the males all the time.
Oh,
want to
absolutely.
do the dresses, want to do all these different things. Hollywood want to do that because they don't want no men. Why? Because you don't want anything that can help procreate anything. You understand? The devil can't create anything. He only can come, the Bible says, he who is not entered through the gate has only come to kill, steal, and destroy, which means the person who is not entered through a woman, the devil don't have any legal authority here on earth because he was not born of a woman. He has no seed-giving ability. So if you look at Hollywood, you look at the way that they're doing in the world, everything is an attack on the masculinity because that's what allows you to be able to birth anything. I know the woman births the child, but the man is the seed that creates the child. You understand what I'm saying? Absolutely. And so that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the whole movement of the devil attacking the masculinity of the world.
But you're absolutely right, and that's culture. Here is one of the things that's just like near and dear to my heart, which is the reason why we need to have more conversations like this. The church, Christian brothers, should be able to come together and have this kind of conversation. Outside of what the world, because the world has an agenda.
Yes, that's what I want to say, an agenda.
The number one agenda is confusion.
All the time.
Let's just confuse them. Let's just, mix up terms, mix up everything. We should be able to, especially with the level of intelligence that we have, and breadth and depth of knowledge and understanding, both theological and sociological and ontological, and psychological, to be able to come to the table and to say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? If I look at Cain and Abel as one man, not as two, then which man do you associate with most? The hunter or the mama's boy? Right. The hunter had the favor of his daddy. The cook had the favor of his mama.
Oh, Esau and Jacob, got you.
You see, it's the Esau-Jacob piece, right? So which one is godly?
Reverend.
We can't specify. Which one is God? Is of God?
And see, that's why I was bringing up David. I know you don't. You just kick my dude out, but that's why
No,
I
no,
said
no.
he
I didn't
expre-
kick
know
him
I'm
out.
just messing with you.
It's a case
He
study.
expresses all parts of himself. I get it. I get it. He don't express it good, but he played the music. He told Jonathan, "I love you, man. You my friend. I appreciate you. If you run up on him, you know you might think he's soft because he out there playing and crying, but at the end of the day, he will kill you. So at the end of the day, let's say not David, but a masculine people, masculine men should be able to express all facets of themselves and not be ashamed of it.
That's it.
That's the problem. You ashamed of your soft side because you feel like nobody wants you to be.
That side is not applauded.
Right, that side is not right.
So many topics here. One of them I think that we need to explore in the future is non-sexualized intimacy between men.
That's good.
Definitely keep it non-sexual. It's great.
Please.
Oh, we would definitely.
Please.
Thank you for emphasizing that part. But the part
Didn't have to tell me that part, but I'm glad you said it. Just make sure you on that side of the street.
Right.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
You got to always bring him with you. Bring him to the party. Bring him to the party.
Okay, go ahead.
So that's the thing, because what I see among many young men is the need for intimacy with other men, not sexualized intimacy. Let's be very clear on what I'm saying here.
got it.
But there is a side of men that need to get closer to other men, but men don't want to do that, especially in the climate we have now, because they don't want to make no mistake about it. I mean, I'm that way. I'm that guy. I do not want. I was at the Kojic convocation a couple of years ago when Reverend Carter was up there, and they did that whole Gay No More thing with Reverend Carter
with the kid.
Reverend Carter, I think his name was Carter. Elder Carter was doing the sermon that night. Very controversial sermon.
Okay, yeah.
And I was representing Regent University at the time, so they always have me come on up to stage, and I'm up there with my bow tie on, and I used to wear a merce, and so my style was a little different than the Kojic guys who have these collars and all that. So I was like the only one up there dressed the way I was dressed. So the preacher gets up there and say, "Yeah, they done got bold now. Come all up to the pulpit with the bow ties on and the pocketbooks." And I got so subconscious.
Taking off
I was like, wait a minute.
Open up my shirt.
Let's calm down for a minute. I was like, nah, I've got to sit this whole sermon out with people sitting in the audience, staring at the guy with the bow tie on. So I'm the guy that want to make everybody know what side of the line I'm on.
Well, just carry a book bag.
Yeah. But it flies in the face.
Just leave your bag at home. No bags. Just wallets.
We're gonna buy
And
you a
then I forget everything. I forget everything.
Hey man, put it on my list. Buy him a book bag.
As long as it's like Coach.
I
gosh.
ain't gonna buy nothing that's cheap now.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna get no merch. I get a Gucci book bag.
Anyway, so I digress.
Your point.
My point is,
keep telling me it's non-sexual. Yes, do that. Yes, non-sexual men. Go ahead. Go ahead. You brought it up. You put it there. Go ahead.
Let me finish.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Go on.
So, but we need in a society where less and less men are very present in their families, where boys are being raised and not having this sort of a proper relationship with men. It leaves men in a society feeling as if there's something missing. So many men that I encounter are walking to society feeling alone in a room with a lot of people because they don't want to get close to anybody. They don't know how to get close to anybody for fear that it may communicate something that was never intended. And sometimes men who want to get close to people, depending on the other person's experience, it can lead down some very dangerous roads. So what I'm seeing when I study Gen Zs, when I see the generation Alpha, I'm seeing young boys that really do need to get close to a man of God who's in their best interests.
Yes.
And then another topic is I was just lecturing at a school a few weeks ago, and I walked in the bathroom, and it had tampons and things like that. And I thought I was in the wrong bathroom, and then
In
I
the men's
realized
bathroom?
it was in the men's bathroom.
Wow.
And you know, and I understand why. I'm not saying I don't understand why, but I was really confused, and it kind of threw me for a loop for a minute. And I think that you know why. The why is because of transgender coming in the bathroom. So, but it's like society is changing so fast that I don't know what to do with that, and some people don't know what to do with that. And I was trying to process it with someone, and they almost made me feel like, well, what's wrong with you? I was like, well, I'm just not used to going in the bathroom to see this.
In Tampa.
Yeah, this is very different, and but I'm not supposed to see it as different. I'm supposed to see it and say, no, that's the way it's supposed to be.
That's culture.
Yeah, but that's culture. But you see how that impacts young boys? How confused that we would suddenly become in a society that's shifting because of all kind of political agendas, and there is not enough strong men in their lives to tell them who they are.
Right.
You have guys starting to think, well, this is what I'm supposed to do.
I sat on the board at Young Men's Leadership Academy in Fort Worth, and I was asked to do a blessing over the graduating seniors last year. And I asked the principal, I said, can I do it the way that I feel like I need to do it? And he said, sure. I said, okay. And I did a charge to the young men. And then I had their parents stand behind them. And I told the young men, I said, now turn around and face your parent. I said, and some of them had their fathers there, some of them just their moms. I said, the blessing that comes from the priest is one thing. The blessing that comes from the priest in the home is something totally different.
Yeah.
I said, I want you to tell your sons what you have seen in them. What did God show you about them? And they started talking to their sons. This is what I see. This is what I've seen. Those dudes started crying.
I know that emotion, boy.
It turned into something else. The parents started crying. You know, fathers started talking and praying. It was uncles got up and started. It was something else. To your point, I think it's one thing for us to have the conversation about the definition of this and that. But if we don't have a conversation about the definition of you, purpose, who you are, and sometimes that can be taken away because we're being distracted by having other conversations, whereby the main thing possibly that they need to know is, who am I? It's the fundamental question I think that people, identity, young men go through identity, needs to have answered. And I would say that age and stage will always bring you back to that question. Because age and stage will always strip you of who you were previously so that you can come into the newborn person of who you're supposed to be in the next stage of your life.
With that said, thank you for your time. That was tremendous.
Man, appreciate
Absolutely.
it, man.
Thank you
so much.
Man, that was